also something of a midget. And needs to apologise if the Captain Peroxide act is dazzling anybody. I'm halfway through dyeing my hair an interesting colour. This is an intermediate stage. So I'm here reading from my first novel, which is currently crowdfunding with the crowdfunding publishers Unbound. I have cunningly written on the website. Back here. So it's a Gothic novel, and it's about Stephen and Sophia, two students whose friendship with a stranger leads them to question their assumptions about themselves and their desires. But what for them is a coming of age, for the stranger can only bring them madness, murder, and betrayal. And just, who's walking home tonight? Right, this bit happens over there. I say this novel happens in a city called Barchester, which is an M.R. James reference, but it's set in Norwich. So if you're walking past there tonight, that's where this bit happens. And I know the glasses made it look like a walk Hypocrite. The creature whispered the word, pressing his teeth together, letting his anger show. He lifted a loop of silver chain upon one finger, knowing he deserved the shudder of weakness it sent through him. Years, decades, centuries of pretending there was some kind of difference between himself and the other murderers. Posturing. That was all it had ever been, a pose of remorse. He had fancied himself some kind of anti-hero, tormented by passions he could not control. All those beautiful, clever boys, all those passionate, lustful girls. And why? Why? Because he had enjoyed it. It had distracted him. Again and again, he had created things to mourn in order to indulge the luxury of remorse. The creature wondered if he had regretted a single thing that he had done. Certainly all his punishments, his denials and starvations had been nothing more than an act, again, of repentance and reparation. Even the silver. He dropped the chain in disgust. What does it matter? He knew that he must never see Sophia again, that if he had any real claim to conscience, he would leave. And he knew that he would not leave. And he knew once, just once, the creature wanted to see the truth of himself mirrored in another's eyes, to know himself through their fear and hatred. He wanted someone to struggle in his arms, to spit at him, revile him. It would be best if that person was Sophia. But always, in her presence, he would revert to a lie of courtesy. The creature closed his eyes and felt the urge for blood. On the city streets he was calmer, but that did not signify much. He almost shook with the energy that screamed through him. Life seethed in the night. Over his head, city sparrows and diseased pigeons shifted in their filthy roosts. Mice and rats scuttled and scurried as he walked, noiseless, past him. The scent of Sophia rang in his head. The taste of her blood sparked upon his tongue. Hunger roared in him. It was the hour when the clubs spilled out their patrons, streaked with sweat and the stickiness of spilled drinks. It was his hour. His hunting hour. The creature crept through dark alleyways. He ached, craved for something that would blot out the madness in his mind, some violence, some respite that would hammer through him, hammer silence into his heart. His pale hands clenched, unclenched their claws. He heard the cat before he saw her. She was white, her pupils flat discs in amber eyes, her body a serpentine ghost among the shadows. As he approached her, her back arched, and she hissed. Childhood superstition flashed through the creature's head, a white cat for a death. He began to laugh, showing the points of his own white teeth. Slowly, slowly her hackles lowered and she sauntered to him with the insolent curiosity of her kind. Meeting his eyes, she hesitated. Her tail still bowed behind her. The creature dropped to one knee. Oh, myth claimed all animals would treat his kind with fear. It was not true. He had always felt an affinity with cats. When he hunted, His eyes were like theirs, pupils reflective, hard, and fathomless black. His teeth also owed more to feline fangs than the clumsy incisors of a primate grin. In many ways, their kinds were equal. Perhaps that was why cats did not run from him. With will always be mine, and so their bodies are sleek and pleasing. But the cat has the seed of evil in him. The white cat butted her head against his chest, pushing back her ears, drawing away the sides of her mouth as she purred and rubbed against him. There was a glimpse of yellow, elegant tooth. Without a sound, he stood and walked away. There was no pity in his heart as the creature found the man. Monster, he thought again, with bitter triumph. Yes. Got time to read the end?
Yes.
He found his mark. There was an edge of fierce sweat about the man, the smell of food quickly cooked. His whole skin seemed grimed with it, that and the scent of tobacco. He did not know he was being watched, but still, he hurried on his way. The creature smiled and pursued. His prey soon realised that he was being stalked, began to move with short jerks, fixing his eyes on his hand, the pavement, anywhere but the dead space of night behind him. It did not take long for his pace to quicken, to begin brief, shamed glances over his shoulder. The creature allowed himself to be seen, allowed his footsteps to ring on the night-time streets. His prey began a desperate stride, crossed the street. The creature followed. Yes, following. The next time the victim turned, he broke into a run. After that, it was soon over. The man darted and dodged, but lost only himself. The creature did not run, but strode, implacable, his footsteps ringing clear, beating out the last minute of that man's life. He could see the sweat on his victim's brow, smell the adrenaline of him, hear the deafening, liquid thunder of his pulse. The creature watched as his prey stopped short, seeing the blank walls of the buildings on each side of him. A dead end. A single, dull street lamp lit the scene. Facing the wall, his prey gave out a low, desperate sob. With slow, loud steps, the creature came towards him. The man's body was tensed for flight, for pain. The creature admired him, overcome by the beauty of his hard muscles, the sweet frailty of his terror and expectation. It was almost with tenderness that he ran a hand over the damp skin of his victim's face. The flesh felt hot, impossibly soft. He pushed it a little harder and heard the man moan in fear or pain. A childish sound. The creature smiled, showing his teeth. It was then the man began to fight, making arms and legs flail, scrabble, punch. The pain slapped the creature, exquisite. For one ecstatic moment, the creature felt alive, and he laughed, pushing his nails into that flesh. The body went limp in his arms. Dear God, the man's voice sobbed. Don't hurt me, please. Oh, please. Disappointment was the first feeling, then disgust. Then there kindled tenderness, and with the tenderness came the thought of Sophia. The male's smell of sweat and musk was an assault, so he ceased to mark it. He thought only of warmth and of his arms, of the heavy beat of life. how Sophia's skin might run red with his kisses, her body shake with it, how she might die in his arms, in love's extremity. He loosened his grip. The man's face twisted upwards. It was wet with tears. His eyes were wide and horrified. "Not hurt he?" the creature asked, his voice a gentleness, a caress marred by the smile upon his lips, the sharp teeth in his mouth. With one fingertip, he brushed the wetness of his prey's cheek and licked the moisture away.